Hello and welcome back to another lesson with Syken. My name is Syken and we are diving into XCOM 2 advanced lessons for manipulating AI behavior / knowing what the enemies are doing. If you want to get better at XCOM, this is potentially one of the most important lessons that you can learn, period. There is likely not much more other than getting the pots right, as in not triggering more than one, that will improve your gameplay. So today on the menu we got mechanical units, and we do have the mechs, and we do have turrets. So as always, I mentioned there are a couple of ground rules or behaviors that all of the enemies of a single type are sharing. So let's start with them for the mechs. Mechs, unlike the biological units, do not have an innate survivability built into them, meaning they will not care where their position is. Matter of fact, none of the mechanical units can even take any cover. So that there is one exception with the Andromedon, but only in its biological form it can take cover. So specifically, mechs will often stay in the open. Mechs, therefore, will use their one action that they do have available when they, for instance, dropship in, to always use an Overwatch and make your life a little bit more difficult. The problem with mechs mainly boils down to, or with mechanical units in general, mainly boils down to they do have a lot of armor, and if you ignore them, then they will hurt you because they hit very, very hard. Therefore, you will find that most of the mechanical units are actually prime targets. Makes it even easier because they are not taking cover, so typically they take the first round of enemy fire. Now today we're going to look at ways of dealing with them and still trying to understand the behavior of the enemies a little bit better. Let's start with the more frequently encountered normal mech. This is the normal mech. I could put an advanced mech in here, wouldn't really make any difference for the line of argumentation because their abilities are really very, very similar. They do come with 3 different abilities, which is their normal shot, the ability to suppress, and the ability to shoot micromissiles. The later one does have 1, respectively 2 charges for the advanced mechs, and that is potentially the most annoying ability that they're going to have. Micromissiles, unlike grenades, do have a 4 radius, so this here is not safe from micromissiles, and micromissiles do have a very, very high destruction capability for any form of terrain, meaning if they are hitting terrain that is not indestructible, you will be in a situation where the terrain collapses. And that means for high ground, that depending on how high you are, level 1 it's 2 points of damage, level 2 is 4 points of damage, level 3 it's even 6 points of damage of falling damage, that you're falling down. On top of it, you should be aware that if you have parked characters below a character and they are falling on top of each other, then the character parked below will take the same falling damage as the falling character. So it's easy to see that this can lead to a cascading failure where you can place your operatives on the rooftop and then a mech comes up and shoots them all down, and you immediately kind of lose 2 or 3 operatives and completely destroy the mission. Therefore, since high ground is so important, it is a non-negotiable that you will deal with mechs. Mechs will always, and I mean always, use micromissiles when you do have characters clustered up. So the only way of preventing that from happening is to not be on high ground and to not be clustered up if you plan to let a mech live through the initial engagement. Mechs will, if they cannot use their micromissiles, they won't do it on one target and they won't do it on characters on low ground. Mind you, if you're clustering together on low ground, you will still eat micromissiles. So if you spread out far enough, their next course of action is typically to try to shoot you, unless their ability to hit you is below 30-ish%. Since they come with a normal 65 aim and then the advanced mechs a little bit more, that will only happen if you're really in full cover. So say if we would be behind that full cover here, then the mech does have a certain percentage, not always, but I would say from experience kind of around 30 to 50%, depending on the amount of cover that you have, where it's going to start suppressing you. That specifically will happen more often as there are other threats. So say if you are having a multi-threat situation where you do have 4, 5, 6, 7 enemies at once, then mechs are more likely to start suppressing. But the order of action is always, if you can hit 2 characters or if you can hit characters on high ground, use micro missiles as long as you do have charges. Then the AI will always go back to, I'm trying to shoot something, specifically if they can move up and get a flanking position. They will stand very much in the open and they will have no problem standing right next to you in order to shoot you. If none of that is possible, then they will start to suppress, specifically if other characters are there to take advantage of. I will say that the moment that you do have lingering abilities like the Codex Psionic Bomb or Archon's Blazing Pinions, they will always use suppression as a combo attack. So that seems to be hard-coded in. If other characters go first and the mech is introduced as the second pack, then you could ignore them because they would use the suppression. But this now goes into very, very specific details, and you would need to know how to predict who's acting first, which is typically the first engaged pack, and then the second pack goes after that. So it's not, you would need to have a really, really deep understanding of initiative order in order to do that. So I'm trying to teach more basic concepts, which is go and kill that guy first, because the micro missiles will hit and hurt you. That's the baseline that you should understand from this video. So what I'm trying to illustrate is we're potentially going to position these guys a little bit different. All right, I did a little bit of reshuffling. So what we did is we put ourselves here into spread out cover. High ground alone will not trigger micro missiles, and this here, full cover, and full cover, will likely make him either shoot or will use suppression. I would count on a suppression. I wanted to let him live to illustrate my point. Last comment around mechs: if you don't have the necessary actions to get them down, Haywire Protocol can always shut them down. If you do have very decently equipped specialists, then Haywire Protocol could really act as a fantastic option to just shut them down for one round and stun them. Also, EMP bombs will have a chance to stun them, so if there is a multi-mech situation or a heavy pack, then you can simply throw an EMP bomb, and there is a, I think, 30% likelihood to stun enemies, plus they will deal true damage to them, so you can use that and maybe Serial to clean up. So EMP bombs are really good against them as well. Moving on to the turrets, not really much to say there. Turrets always spawn on high ground. I shouldn't say that, some street missions do have them on low ground, so they most often spawn on high ground, and that's also what they need because their normal aim is atrocious, around 50. And even the lead turrets aren't particularly good. They will have a lot of armor though, and they are prime targets for, say, a combat protocol, for blue screen rounds or other options. In non-timed missions, the easiest way is run in with a ranger that doesn't provoke overwatch, use a sniper to shoot, run out with a ranger, rinse and repeat, and you can easily kill turrets. Now, there are a couple of things that you might not know about turrets. Turrets do have squad sight, and that means even if you can't see them, but there are other enemies engaged, you just should consider that they do have squad sight. Specifically the heavier and elite super heavy turrets do have that. So we being exposed here, even if we couldn't see that turret by ourselves, which we can, but let's for the sake of argument assume the turret is like very far behind here, but it is engaged and the mech can still see us, then we would be flanked. That would still incur a penalty from shooting from a far distance, so squad side penalty, but nonetheless, there is a good chance of actually getting hit. So that's number one that you should know. Number two that you should know is the moment that a turret doesn't have a firm ground underneath itself, it ceases to exist. So the easiest way of dealing with them is to simply explode them. And with an explosion, the moment that the terrain that they are standing on is destroyed, the turret ceases to exist. But no more turret to deal with. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So let's see if Syken's prediction with the suppression slash shot was correct. One last comment around the Mechs is they can traverse height at their leisure. So just because you are on high ground doesn't mean that they could flank you. They can, however, not just jump over the terrain. So let's see what they are going to do. Oh, he had enough. Okay. Well, he decided to flee, which is telling us two things. Number one, there's another pack here. Number two, he was alone, so there is a chance. Mechanical units can take that move. Biological units will take it more often. Very few units will stay and completely fight if they are the last unit. I will say that the leader of a pack has a lower chance to flee, so that goes deeper into pod structure. The leader of a pack of a pod has a lower chance to flee, but if they're injured and they are the last one of a pack, then that typically, and another pod is near, then they typically will just take their chances and flee. Alright, hopefully you found that interesting and helpful. See you on the next episode. Take care, bye bye.